As you're watching this right now, there's a choice being made about your future, and you might not even realize that it's happening. You see, the world is moving at breakneck speed with no clear destination in sight. Industries, well, these are being disrupted overnight, while leadership roles are being redefined in real time. All this to say, reinvention is no longer optional, it's inevitable. And the question that you're faced with today isn't whether or not you will have to make this transition, it's whether you'll be in control when you do. In other words, if you're not the owner of your story during this inevitable change, well, then you're likely to become the victim of it. Because every day that you don't actively define what your next chapter means, well, someone or something else is defining it for you. Now, this is happening because most people don't recognize their story, the narrative that they live by. Well, they don't see this as a choice. And because of that, they don't recognize the unnecessary limitations that they put on themselves. So today, I'm going to show you how to take full ownership of your story, past, present, and future, so that your next big move is on your terms and no one else's. So let me show you what this looks like in the real world. Now, I get the opportunity to work with incredibly accomplished leaders, people who've built careers that others envy. But when it's time for their next big move, they oftentimes start questioning everything. Suddenly, these same leaders who've commanded respect for decades begin to believe that all their expertise, their proven track record, their entire professional identity only matters within the tiny world where they built it. Now, I see this with US special operators who've led high-stakes missions for more than 20 years, but when they consider civilian opportunities, oftentimes they can only imagine private contracting and security work. You see, their leadership under pressure, their ability to build trust in life or death situations, and their mastery of complex logistics, well, these are skills that they struggle to see beyond the military adjacent world. I also see this with senior executives who have successfully transformed organizations, who've navigated complex stakeholder relationships and delivered results under intense scrutiny for decades. But when they're ready for their next chapter, they become trapped thinking that their value only exists in the corporate world. You see, they don't see how their strategic thinking, their ability to build and lead teams, and their track record of driving outcomes, they don't see how that could create impact in an entirely new environment. Now, here's what's happening. They're confusing context with capability. It's like a surgeon who's performed complex operations for decades, but assumes their precision and decision-making under pressure, well, they assume that only has value in an operating room. See, they're completely missing how those skills could transform any field requiring critical thinking and split-second choices. All that to say, when you let a role define your capabilities, it creates a cascading effect. You start second-guessing not just what you can do, but who you really are. You begin to see your entire career through the narrow lens of where you built it, instead of seeing it through the transferable power of what you've actually accomplished. Now, this is why owning your story is so crucial to reinvention. It's because you get to decide what your story means, and more importantly, who it has made you. And it's not just about the transferable knowledge and skills. It's also about the wisdom and experience that came from every success and failure. That is, if you take ownership. So then, how do you take full ownership of your story? Well, here's 3 ways to do it. Number 1, reframe your past. So what does it mean to reframe your past? Well, simply put, it means recognizing that who you are today gives you the authority to decide what your past experience actually means. So you're not the same person who went through those experiences. You have perspective now that you didn't have then. Here's what I mean. Every experience you've had, the successes, the failures, the detours, the disappointments, they're all raw material. And you're the author who gets to decide what story they tell about who you are and what you're capable of creating. See, when you own your story, you're able to own all the mistakes and victories that made you who you are today. You see them as gifts, these valuable lessons that have made you stronger, more capable, and better equipped to master what's next. Think about it. That failed venture that taught you risk assessment and resilience in ways no MBA program ever could? That job you took for the wrong reasons that showed you exactly what you don't want to build your life around? Or that unconventional path that everyone questioned? Well, that's exactly what gives you perspective that others don't have. But when you don't own these experiences as your story, well, then you can't leverage them as fuel for your next big move. All that to say, your past doesn't define you. Your interpretation of it does. And you get to choose that interpretation based on who you become, not on who you were when it happened. Number two, identify your turning points. So what does it mean to identify your turning points? Well, simply put, it means moving beyond the surface level achievements to the deeper moments that shaped your character. The struggles, the near misses, the quiet victories that nobody else saw. Now, these aren't the stories that you put out on your LinkedIn profile or that you talk about in interviews. These are the moments that built your resilience, your judgment, and your ability to see opportunities that others miss. Maybe it was the time that you had to rebuild after a major setback. Or maybe it was learning to lead when you had no real authority. Maybe it was making a decision that everyone questioned, but you knew was right. Now, I like to think of these moments as turning points, and only you know what these moments were for you. Now, here's how you identify these turning points. Ask yourself, what was the hardest challenge I ever faced, and what did that experience teach me about who I am? Now, like any great story, these turning points change your whole perspective by opening up completely new avenues. But it's when you dig deeper that you really start to see the patterns. You start to see how seemingly unrelated experience built specific capabilities that define your leadership today. Number three, reclaim your future. So what does it mean to reclaim your future? Well, simply put, reclaiming your future means taking control of how your story unfolds. It means rejecting other people's ideas about your potential and refusing to let your past experiences become excuses for future limitations. Now, this is where most people get stuck. They'll do the work to reframe their past and identify their character-building moments, but when it comes to their future, oftentimes they just hand the pen back to other people. They let market conditions or industry norms or other people's expectations write their next chapter. But when you truly own your story, well, that's when you understand that your unique experiences, the good and the bad, well, this is exactly what gives you the perspective to create something for yourself that no one else can. See, when you own your past in this way, your future suddenly becomes full of possibilities that you previously couldn't see. Your perceived limitations and the false narratives they were based on, well, these disappear, and you see your future more clearly for who you are, and more importantly, who you aspire to be. So there you have it. 3 ways to take full ownership of your story so you can transition with confidence, clarity, and a renewed sense of purpose. Are you ready to make your next big move, but you just don't know where to start? For nearly 2 decades, I've been helping high-performing leaders just like you take ownership of their future, leverage their wisdom, and transition to a meaningful second act. Now, whether you're shifting careers, eyeing a new venture, or you're just itching for something more, our work together will help you get clear about your next chapter. It'll help you to redefine your contribution and map out a plan of action that ensures you're successful through every step of the journey. Now, in my work with transitioning U.S. special operators and senior level executives, I've developed a proven framework for reinvention that helps leaders transition with greater clarity and confidence into their most meaningful work yet. Now, if it worked for them, I'm confident it'll work for you too. So, if you're ready to take ownership of your future, if you're ready to leverage all the wisdom, the knowledge, and the experience that you've gained, and you're ready to transition to a more purposeful and meaningful second act, then let's talk. You can contact me directly through my site at newfuturist.com, or you can email me directly at jared@newfuturist.com with the subject line, Reinvent. I look forward to hearing from you and helping you create the future on your terms.